I got the stab boots on my back. I could load up and attack on anybody. Grab the gat, grab the mask. I think my aura going black, and I don't plan on turning back. What's the point of doing that when you got people that's around?
Welcome back to another episode of JK Philly. Today we got Bring the Thunder podcast. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Yeah, part of the podcast we have Thunder coverage, Thunder Fan Zone, Thunder Talk on there. So some big, I guess, Thunder creators over on Instagram. You guys can check us out there. And then we have like recap shows and everything else. We'll be recapping the draft tonight too, so that'll be fun.
For sure. Yeah, I was definitely going to give you an opportunity, to just go over everything that you have coming up. It seems you've done it. So we can kind of just jump into, what the main part of the chunk of the podcast is going to be. Of course, we're recording after you guys just won the NBA championship. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to the team. But I really want to just finish up with how our series is going. We went all the way from talking with the Utah Jazz being one of the worst teams in the NBA to now talking with the champions. So really starting to wrap up everything here. So kind of just want to go over and start from the very beginning. We can keep it kind of simple because we saw the dominance throughout the Thunder throughout the whole season. But just give me from, game 1 all the way up to game 80, how your season went, if there was any hiccups or if there was any points in the season or like, man, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it done, or just some impersonal takes that you have.
Yeah. I think everyone had predicted us to be a top seed because we were a first seed the season before. And then coming into the season, the way we started off, like the first 10, 15, maybe 20 games, we had everyone pretty healthy. And then all of a sudden, I guess, disaster struck when Chet went down, and then Hartenstein had an injury following that. And then we had J-Dub playing center at some games. And there's a couple games that we lost in the season, not many, obviously. But the games that we did lose were the games that we had no center on the court, like an actual center.
Yeah.
J-Dub held his own, did his thing. He improved as the year went on, but it was like horrific to see Chet get hurt and he couldn't walk throughout the season at most points. And then for him to come back only after playing several games and looking like an all-star before, his injury, and then to come back right before or after the all-star break or whatever, like to go through that as a team, I think that helped them a lot. And those were like the key moments, I guess, through the season. Other things that were fun was just the fact that Shea was healthy most of the season. That kept us afloat. Like when your best player is healthy for, 72 plus games or something, it makes it way easier for us compared to other teams. So
yeah,
we had a lot of fun moments start to finish, but I think the fact that they kind of all rallied back after All-Star break, and I kind of saw the momentum shift after that. And, they took their foot off the gas a little bit because we had a couple losses, but from like a team unison perspective, like everyone was healthy going into the playoffs for that last set of like maybe 30 games.
Yeah. No, it was definitely, exciting to watch throughout the years. Like even maybe 2-3 years ago, I wasn't that focused on OKC. But obviously in the years previous, I've been starting to pay a little bit more attention to it. And of course, Chet having injury beforehand and then getting injured again this season, it was kind of in my head around that time of like, oh, they might miss it like they did last year. They might make a little bit of a push, but who knows when Chet's going to come back. So that was definitely a thought in my mind. But then he came back and it looked like nothing even happened to him. So they got it. It kind of just all worked out in your guys' favor of just like you got that nice little break in the little bit. Little other people get to get some reps in. Obviously your team is so deep that you need those guys to get reps in, and they definitely showed it throughout the playoffs. So it kind of all worked out, which was really nice to see. But let's move into the next topic. Obviously, we say all of that going with the regular season. We can talk a little bit about the playoffs. We can start from, start to finish all the way up until the finals. We'll talk about the finals as well, but just playoffs and just how consistent they were through the playoffs. Just tell me your key takeaways that you saw from them.
Yeah, I mean, everyone kind of expected us to be favorites. I was probably more of a reserved person when it came to each team. Like I respected all the teams because the teams that we faced were all close to 50 win teams. So it wasn't like we're playing, last year's Pelicans or anything. No disrespect to them, but we 4-0 sweep them. And then to go into that Grizzlies series, I thought we would lose a game or two, and obviously Ja went down. They could have won that game. Who knows? But to still even think like we could have gentlemen swept, that Grizzlies team and then go into the next series where we had a hard fought 7 games against a former MVP, a champion, and then to go in against Anthony Edwards, who had taken out Luka Doncic, LeBron, Stephen Curry up to that point. So it felt like a crazy run. I feel like both teams from both sides of the Eastern and Western Conference were like teams of destiny. Everyone mentioned the Pacers because, national media stage kind of took to them as like the underdog team. But I felt like the Thunder, with all the injuries in the season, with how the playoffs went, and who we had to face, it felt like there was a lot of destiny on our end especially after the Denver series. It was like, man, this team's special. And we kind of knew that a while ago, but for them to actually do it is a whole different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Denver series because we just talked to Denver maybe a couple weeks ago, and it was just like, yes, this game went to 7 this series went to 7 as well against the Pacers, but obviously like injury barring and like not as talented player on the Nuggets. But that Nuggets series was probably one of your hardest matchups that you guys had, and it just looked like watching highlights and just watching the game start to finish that the defensively, you guys just dismantled them. Offensively, you just took advantage of every single thing that you could. And it was it was a very meticulous series to watch through. It was really interesting to see. But yeah, going into the finals, media is definitely more so of like, yeah, the Thunder should win this. It should be in 5 games, or it should be a sweep, or, the Pacers aren't really that good, blah, blah, blah. They got lucky. But at the same time, how you just explained, you guys went all the way from the Grizzlies all the way up into the finals, and you had hard teams that you still had to face that were taking you 5, 6, 7 games. And it's still like, yeah, we still got to get to the finals. We still got to, beat the best team in the East, regardless if they're better than us or not. And they still took them to 7. So I do want to get your key takeaways from the finals, but I definitely just want to section a little bit of game 7 too. But I just want to hear your thoughts of how the finals went going into it. Obviously, you said you were a little bit more reserved when I came into that, but I just want to know your other take.
Yeah. So for the finals, I had us winning in 6 games. And I guess the rest of the pod and probably most of national media had us winning in 5, or even some people had a crazy take of like 4 games. Yeah. I just felt like what I'd seen from the Pacers, them taking out the Bucks with Giannis, going through the Knicks as well. And that Knicks team was really good. They beat the Boston team. So I was looking at all those factors and how deep they were, and especially their coaching. I think that's where Denver and the Pacers had a lot of an advantage. We had a first year, technically second year coach in the playoffs at that time. So I knew it was going to be a battle in terms of like strategy. Like you mentioned, it was meticulous against the Denver series. And I felt like that's exactly how this series was going to go, especially after the first game. You get shell shocked after the first one, after the first loss. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew they'd take at least 2. They took 1 extra one, but I still had us winning. I thought like overall we're the better team, the deeper team, the better player. And generally when that happens, you tend to win. Obviously we'll never know from how game 7 went with the injury, how that'll look. But I feel like I tell everyone injuries are part of the game. The Celtics had a bunch. Every run in playoff history has had a set of injuries where we could have pointed towards like, this team could have beat you guys. Like there's people saying, the Stephen Curry led Warriors could have beat us, but it's like they didn't get there.
They didn't, yeah.
So it's like you've got to face what you have, and you can't really worry about the referees or the injuries or anything. You just got to take the championship when it comes to you, because it's one of the hardest things to get in pro sports. So, having waited at least 17 seasons, 13 for myself since 2012, last time we were in the finals. So we'll take any type of championship that we can take, man.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't believe what the media is saying in terms of there should be an asterisk next to this championship because of, Halliburton scoring 9 points in the first 5 minutes. Like that's not fair to OKC and what they've showed throughout the entire regular season and the playoffs, and just how they were coached throughout the entire season. But talking about game 7, obviously, like you mentioned, the injuries that happened within it, and Tyrese Halliburton I just want to ask because I think it's funny. I wanted to watch good basketball at the end of the day. Were you nervous when Tyrese hit those first, 3 for 4 3-pointers in the first quarter?
Not really. I knew it was going to be a close game until halftime, regardless whether he was in or not.
Yeah.
I think third quarter was when we were going to turn up. That's what we've done, even against Denver. So I knew the strategy for them was just to keep it close, and they fought all the way. If they didn't, have that third quarter that they had, it could have been closer because they had a couple runs in the third, late in the third, early fourth with TJ. But that's just the thing about it. I feel like this team was just, so much better in a sense. Obviously, it went 7 games, but I don't know. It just felt like we would get the job done, and they were ready for the moment. And I think in post-game presser, I don't know who was asked the question, but they mentioned, I think it may have been Aaron Wiggins, but we've already been through that Denver series and they knew exactly how to get that done. So when I hear the players after the championship talk about the fact that we didn't get rattled in Denver, they mentioned, some of the players mentioned that they weren't rattled after that Halliburton shot. They were just more together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with your point. I kind of do, just because it came into my mind of, all this talk with, contracts, and obviously today's draft day, people are going to start moving some people. Do you think that this team is going to stay together fully, or do you think they're going to make some trades? And then also, do you really think that they could run it back again, bearing anything, just talking in the fantasy world, if you do keep the same team, nothing changes, can you run that back basically with how the NBA looks right now?
I think the plan fully is to run it back. The 3 core guys are all Supermax extension eligible. So Chet, J-Dub, Shea will all get paid this summer. Chet and J-Dub's extensions don't hit until the year after. So we'll have a chance to run it back with them, with the same crew, because all of the guys are signed up until 2027. That's when the team will get expensive, to answer the second part of the question. So we will have to make decisions on Lou Dort, Hartenstein, or Caruso, or maybe all 3, or maybe just 2 of them. So, I mean, that's just part of the new CBA. You got to dump contracts, dump salaries. We kind of planned better than the Celtics did because Hartenstein's large contract expires in 2 years anyways. So he'll be probably someone that will move off with a 1-year deal left after next season. Caruso only signed a 3-year deal. I think Lou Dort will be here long term because he's a drafted player. I don't see us getting rid of arguably the best perimeter defender in the league. So I think it'll be between Hartenstein, Caruso's contracts, and if they want to negotiate down to a lower level, probably Hartenstein can be negotiated down. Caruso can be probably an easy movable person at that time. So I feel like we're pretty set in terms of who we want to move. It's a very, Presti hasn't made it complicated. I think even the Celtics didn't make it too complicated on, hey, if we, ran it back and it didn't happen, on who we would need to move. And I feel like they were pretty comfortable moving those 2 guys, and they know who their core 3 guys are.
Yeah.
So at least for the next 5-6 years, you're gonna have to deal with us.
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of why I was asking the question. It seems like that you guys have it pretty, set up straight. Don't really got to change too much. You just got to keep that consistency, and teams really just got to figure you out at the end of the day to see what can we throw at them that's going to make them, have to double think. I don't know if I'll put this at the end of the video as well. I am kind of curious. Within the fourth quarter, I don't know if this is a dumb question or more of just a random basketball question for you, but in the fourth quarter, how you saw, obviously it was getting closer, of course, with the Pacers trying to get fouls and, attacking the rim and just the refs calling everything like that. Because it was such a big difference in terms of the score, were you worried in that sense of man, OKC really just needs to settle this and just finish their opportunities when they can, because when they're not, and you're giving them opportunities to keep clawing up and up and up from 12 points to 7-6 points, that's the type of things that can, lose you a championship at the end of the day. Was that a factor in your mind, or am I just overthinking something?
No, you're definitely not overthinking. At the 4-minute 50 mark, Shea picked up his 5th foul, so he was in foul trouble. at the 4-minute mark. We had no timeouts, which is unheard of in an NBA game.
Mm-hmm.
So for 4 straight minutes, they just kept picking up fouls. We couldn't, slow the pace down at all, which, favored them. So there was a lot of things going in their favor. They had momentum. The pressure was on us. The fact that we kept this alive, even the fact that, Tyrese wasn't playing, this was still a stressful game for Thunder fans that were in the arena. They can probably account for it too. Like, they were holding their breath. Like, they were making a run. So
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can realistically say like they were not nervous. Game 7 is the toughest game for any NBA fan, NBA players. Everyone's in Oklahoma after this parade is probably sleeping the rest of the week because we were probably holding our breath until the last buzzer sounded. And I feel like that's the same thing with Cavaliers fans back in 2016 in Game 7.
Yep.
It took everything for that team to win it. And so I know those guys were tired too, and the fans were exhausted after the end of that. So
for sure. Well, definitely a special season. Congrats again to your team. Hopefully you guys can, maybe not hopefully, but you guys can at least run it back or try to get to the same spot and continue to, show us something special and not just you guys running through the West all the time. But definitely enjoy talking to you. Like I said in the beginning, with all the things that you guys got going on, if there's anything that you have upcoming, we would definitely like to know for the fans.
Yeah. I guess upcoming in the regular season, we'll be going live for a lot of games for if you're a Thunder fan. And for every game, like post game, we do recaps live or at least record videos. We also do episodes that are across all social medias every day on Friday at 3 p.m. So yeah, we're fully in for Thunder content. I feel like as far as Thunder content goes, we're providing as much of it as we possibly can to the fans. So super excited about that.
For sure. Definitely appreciate your time. Make sure you guys stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. Talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching another episode of JK Philly. Make sure you stay tuned by subscribing to the channel.